Welcome to the Forensic Financialist, where we simplify business and leadership challenges and choose the road that leads to wisdom and excellence. We discuss tough issues facing business and figure out easy-to-implement solutions. Using the rearview mirror approach, we look in the rear view to move towards a brighter future. Here's your host, Jeff Newkirk.
Welcome to the Forensic Financialist, where we aim to improve your business and build strong leaders by presenting understandable solutions. I'm your host, Jeff Newkirk. Now remember, in each episode, my goal is for you, the listener, to come away with at least one nugget of useful information and to get a little inspired along the way. I have a feeling you're going to walk away with many nuggets of useful information today. Our guest is Mr. Robert Osborne, and he's a business coach, and he's been in the coaching business for a little over a year, and he works with the Growth Coach. The Growth Coach is out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and has been around since 2003, and Mr. Osborne has his business in the North Houston area. One of the strongest parts of being a part of the Growth Coach is the strategic mindset coaching process. And it's extremely effective and even comes with a money-back guarantee. That's very impressive. Prior to starting his business, Mr. Osborne spent most of his career in sales, management, and business development for Baker Hughes, among other companies. During that time, and much of his time, was spent coaching, training, and building teams and developing growth strategies for others. And according to Robert Osborne, and these are his words, throughout the last few years of my corporate career, I knew I wanted to get into business coaching, but I wanted to make sure I had strong curriculum and support system to offer my clients. I decided to franchise with the Growth Coach because of the excellent programs as well as the credibility the company has already built around the world. So they're international.
Yes.
Perfect. When clients work with me, they get my experience and my background combined with highly effective programs that the Growth Coach has developed over the last 20 years. Now, Mr. Osborne, great to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know that the listeners are going to get lots of useful information out of our discussion today. Tell us a little bit about your background and your journey to becoming a business coach.
I sure will. First of all, Jeff, thank you for having me, and I hope all your listeners are having a wonderful start to their new year. Believe it or not, it all started in my 20s when I just started in the oil and gas industry. I was coaching youth sports, and coaching youth sports sort of teaches you a lot about coaching in general.
Boy, it sure does. I coached youth sports for a number of years. I loved it and learned a lot from it, and that's so I'm interested to hear your story with that.
It started as just helping a friend pitching batting practice, and then it sort of developed. I liked it, and it was kind of my superpower. So I did it before I even had kids, and then as my kids got into sports, I coached them. But when you break it down to its barest bones, you're learning to interact with people younger than you. You're interacting with parents, other administrators, umpires, other coaches. You're building strategies. You're part educator, part motivational speaker. You're organizing a whole bunch of things. So, it teaches you a lot about, coaching and life in general without you ever realizing that you're learning along the way.
That's so true. And I would guess that in your youth coaching experience, you had some contentious situations, potentially with parents. The kids are the easy part. The parents, it can be challenging.
Yeah, surprisingly, I didn't have as many as I was expecting because I think I did a pretty good job of setting expectations from the beginning. I met with the parents and said, these are the rules, and they're not negotiable. And I got the pushback out of the way from the very beginning, but I just stayed to that mantra. These three things have to happen every time, and they're not negotiable. And surprisingly, that was probably the thing that kept the interactions or the contention off the table.
So laying the groundwork, the foundation,
Right.
and that serves well in your business coaching as well, I'm sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's all about setting expectations. What do you want to get out of it as a player? What do you want to get out of it as a coach? And hopefully you find a happy medium.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not to say I didn't have some parents saying, why isn't little Johnny playing shortstop?
Well, because they were going to get ready for a Division I scholarship, right?
Yeah. And why isn't little Johnny batting third? And, this and that. I mean, and you just work through them as they come
Right,
up.
right.
But all in all, I had a tremendous experience, and I coached Little League baseball, football, basketball, and soccer. So they all brought their own set of challenges, but they're all basically the same, interacting with people, educating, motivating, and having fun.
Yeah, awesome.
So
Good.
And then as my professional career advanced, I gained more and more responsibility. And with that responsibility, you turn from, I learned early on that manager is not what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a leader. And, they're different job descriptions.
Between a manager and a leader.
Correct.
I couldn't agree more. There is a big difference between being a manager and being a leader.
I sort of believe that managers manage processes and leaders lead people. And
right.
Our company at the time was being very functionally managed, and it was frustrating to be, to see it from afar. So I was given the leeway to kind of develop my own teams, and I took the culture leadership road. And with that, if you want to make people better, you've got to interact with them. You've got to lead them. You've got to coach them. You've got to mentor. You've got to set expectations. You've got to give them the gentle push that they need. You've got to give them the kick in the butt when they need it. So,
and a true leader is true and strong leader. It's about serving others, right? It's about everybody else except yourself. A manager is more worried about getting the processes covered, all the tasks, responsibilities, and so forth, but not necessarily the growth that takes place among the team.
You're absolutely right. I mean, they put out a plan and they expect you to manage the plan. Well, the plan doesn't sell product, doesn't do this, the people do. So they looked at it sort of, backwards, in my opinion. And that was one of my frustrating things with corporate is we've got this plan and we've got a lot of growth, a lot of things, but it just doesn't magically happen. The common denominator is people have to make it happen.
That's right.
They have to sell the product, build the product, deliver the product, but the common denominator is people. So I learned as I progressed that, that was a critical, and the coaching, the mentoring, the training was, the big part of it, for sure.
So what part of your corporate background really lends itself to your business coaching today and that you really rely on as you work with clients?
The one thing that they did very, very well is they planned their business. It was a multi-billion-dollar business, but they planned it extremely well. From what's, strategy, sales strategies, operational strategies, financial strategies, what resources do you need? We knew the business inside and out from a financial side. We knew the opportunities that were ahead of us. So that part prepared me very well to be a coach in terms of planning your business.
And Robert, I think that what you just went through the list, so important. So for everybody's benefit, could you just go through that one more time? Because I do think that those are so critical in assuring success, future success.
No, absolutely. You've got to plan your business from a sales perspective, and that includes marketing. You've got to plan your business operationally, and you've got to plan your business financially. Do you have the people in place, the resources in place, how all three of them work together? You might have the best salesman in the world, but your product is lagging or your operation is not keeping up. So we would all plan together, all the disciplines would get together and build a plan from the grassroots. And
so all the teams worked in sync.
Correct.
They collaborated.
We had an engineering team, we had operations, we had sales, we had a financial guy, all building the plan together.
Mm-hmm. The way it should be.
And we'd go off site for 3 to 4 days and build it. Then we come back and we present it to our one up. Then he would make tweaks, changes, whatever he thought. Then it would go up the food chain.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all done at the grassroots level.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the way a plan should be built. It shouldn't be my plan. It should be our plan.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't have engineering buy-in saying these are the products I need to support my growth, then it's not really a plan. It's just some paper.
Right. And that's sort of the difference. Another one of the differences between a manager and a leader. So a manager will tell their team, this is what we're going to do. Whereas a leader will incorporate all of the input from the team to help develop the plan.
You're exactly right. And the thing that you didn't see is I would meet with my salespeople probably a month prior to that, get their input. Where is your markets going? What do you see? How do you do? So I was prepared from the sales perspective when I met with the other disciplines, and every discipline did the same thing, so that we were getting buy-in really at the ground level.
Yeah.
I was the next level, then management was the next level, so that when I came back and said, here's our plan for 2021, it wasn't like, oh, no, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
They bought in it from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's, the part of a successful plan and part of what I learned from corporate. And you can scale this up or down to your business. Mm-hmm. But the concepts and the philosophies should be part of your business, regardless of how big or small it is.
It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur just starting out or you're a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. You have to have a business plan.
Absolutely. So I'm a big plan guy. Secondary to the plan that corporate told me was, you've got to learn to implement the plan, and you've got to have measurements along the way to gauge your implementation. Now, if you and I sit here in January and do a plan and then put it on the shelf and don't do anything, then it's not a plan.
It doesn't serve a purpose.
It's just a notebook with some paper in it.
Right.
So we have to have milestones and KPIs along the way to gauge our implementation.
So the KPIs, key performance indicators.
Mm-hmm. To gauge our process and our progress, with the ability to tweak it, saying, look, we really missed the boat on that one. We probably need to adjust it and live with the make the adjustments, live with the consequences. But you have to adjust, and it should be very fluid along the way.
And isn't a business coach really somebody that can help with making sure that the plan is implemented and you have those key performance indicators to make sure that you're on track? And if something needs to be tweaked, it's appropriate to do so. And a business coach can help you with that.
Absolutely. You need somebody that is from the outside looking in that can ask the right questions to get you thinking, because if you do your business plan by yourself every year, what's going to change? You're going to add 3% to your revenue.
You have a biased view before you even started.
You're going to say, well, I'm going to do 3% more. There's my plan. I'm done. Mm-hmm. Give yourself a high five and go about your business. And that's not what
take yourself out for a reward.
Yeah. Growth is measured in a lot of different ways. It could be revenue. It could be profit. It could be both. It could be getting an account you've been chasing for 3 years. So growth is measured in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. And a coach can help you look at those indicators that are important to you.
Absolutely.
To me, that's the biggest strength of a coach, is to find what indicators are important and helping you achieve them and calling you out when you don't. If you said you were going to call on 10 people a week for January and you've only called on 2 all month, why aren't you doing that?
Mm-hmm. And the reason could be, very legitimate.
Absolutely.
But there has to be accountability, and a business coach can help you with that accountability.
And accountability doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could be a great thing.
No, it's a good thing.
So,
absolutely.
And then one thing over
should be a core value.
No, absolutely. I'm 100% agree. And one thing the oil and gas industry taught me for 30 years, I traveled across the country and communicated with a lot of diverse people. Mm-hmm. A lot of people older than me, a lot of people younger than me, people from all over the world. So I learned to communicate with diverse cultures and diverse backgrounds, and that
what a benefit that is.
It can do nothing but help your people skills. When you talk to the same people that share the same thoughts every day, the conversations get stale.
Right.
This will open up a whole new world.
Limited growth.
So,
Yeah.
the ability to communicate with a lot of different people was a big plus. So those are some of the main things I learned and implement now from the corporate world.
Perfect. So there's always a tendency when, as a business coach and consultant myself, as I bring up the concept of coaching, there's a tendency for pushback. There's people don't always get immediately engaged when the conversation of coaching comes up because the response is typically, "Well, everything's good. I don't think I need a coach." So when you hear that, Robert, what is your reaction?
There's two or three conversations I have. One of the first things I do is coaching. A lot of times people think it's an I gotcha exercise. You're in here to see what I'm doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I try to do is saying, look, coaching is not about change. Could there be some change? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could there be a big change? Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Could there be a little small change? Absolutely. Could it be a reinforcement of stuff you're doing great? Sure, it can. But it doesn't necessarily equal change. You need to prepare yourself for the possibility, but don't automatically assume I'm here to make you change everything.
It's to be proactive.
Correct.
Not to point out any wrongdoings in the past. It's to plan for the future.
Right.
Okay.
I can't correct your past sins. All we can do is build something that makes sense going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, habits, a new habit takes time to build. So, but everybody automatically just equates coaching with change. So I try to get that off the table right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, will there be some change? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go a complete 180 from where you are.
Right. But I think people would really appreciate hearing that because they immediately think, like you just said, well, you're just going to point out things that you think that I'm doing wrong. That's not necessarily the case.
And then something else I do is I try to reinforce the return on investment, not my return on investment, their return on investment.
Your clients, the clients that you work with. Mm-hmm.
Why did you get in business? Are you seeing the result that you thought you would see? And then that generally will start the conversation. Well, no, I'm not. Well, why aren't you? Boom, boom, boom. So it's a general way of saying you invested your time, your sweat, whatever you invested, and you're not getting the results. Tell me why. Mm-hmm. And then that generally sort of steers the conversation. I need help.
Mm-hmm. Helping them get from point A to point B the fastest way possible.
Right. And then another thing I do is I just try to reframe the issues. Okay, we talked the other day about employee retention. Tell me about your retention issues. I just everything is done in a gentle, helping way. I'm not a salesy type person. I don't see anything really good coming out of this. I'm here to help. If it's a free tip that sets you on the right path, so be it. Mm-hmm. If it's one-on-ones for hours, so be it too.
You're there to work with your clients.
Correct. Yeah. And the biggest, one of the biggest successes we're going to have collectively is 50% of it falls on you and your ability to be coached. If you do not want to be coached, then our success is going to be marginal.
Boy, that's well said. If you're not receptive, or thinking back to when you were a youth coach, did you have any players that you just knew were not coachable?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it would be impossible to coach them. Well, it's true with your clients. If they are not receptive to any coaching that you would offer, it's not going to work.
And do I expect them to do 100% conversion of every concept? No. But, they need to find some takeaways that are important to them and run with them and try them. Because you're here, the way I look at it, you and I are engaged for a reason. We're talking for some reason. Mm-hmm. And we need to find what the core issue of the reasons we're communicating.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So those are some of the things that I try to, accomplish.
So with the clients that you've worked with, what has been your most satisfying experience so far?
All along the way, I've seen the aha moment, and I've seen it physically happen where they perk up, they go, you told me this a week ago and it actually happened, but there's been some aha moment, and it generally happens pretty early in
Like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. They'll see it actually apply, or they've tried it or something, but it's like, I finally get it. To me, that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely.
When
you can see somebody who is growing and is improving, whether it's with their business or just individually as a professional, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they gain a new client. You can see something physically happen, but a lot of times it's just, I get it now and I feel good about it. And those are the things that, make it worthwhile for sure.
Absolutely.
And a referral is always a nice way of,
So when they tell somebody else, man, I work with Robert Osborne, and you got to work with him because my business has grown tremendously and I'm so much stronger of a professional and a leader. Yeah, that would be a huge, huge positive for you. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that happens often.
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, that's a tangible measurement, but it's the aha, the face lighting up that really
absolutely
makes it worth it for sure.
So this last year, Robert, has been what a struggle. I mean, how many times can we hear the word pivot in 1 year?
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for entrepreneurs, business owners who are really struggling to make ends meet and wondering if they can even continue on in 2021?
I made a list of a few things that I think are important. One is embrace the digital way. I'm not saying find a social platform that you're comfortable with and engage. Everybody's online now more than ever.
Okay.
That's where your audience is.
So like Facebook or LinkedIn or,
Instagram, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm not saying you have to do all of them and that'd be great, but find one that you're somewhat comfortable and get engaged.
Okay.
More people are engaged now because, the quarantine, the lack of human interaction. So you need to be able to converse in one platform. So find one and embrace it. The second thing I would say is, Zoom, people have Zoom fatigue right now. There's limited human
Zoomitis.
Yeah. There's limited human interaction. So your prospecting is going to not be where you want it to be. So how do you grow your business? Focus on the retaining the customers you got.
Okay. Retention. That's huge. Yeah.
It doesn't cost a lot of money. It costs a lot of your time, and it makes everybody feel good about. Make those people want to keep doing business with you. So,
any specifics how to make that retention happen?
It involves the human touch.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. I'm not saying face to face necessarily, but a phone call, a card, an email, a follow up. Just what do we? Ask those people what are we doing well, and how do we help you? How can we do better? Right. People take their customers for granted.
Right.
I see it every day.
Yeah, it's like. When we were talking about retention and the human touch, made me think of some insurance agents that I've had in the past where, once they sold a premium, I never heard from them again. Yeah. You got to reach out to your customers, your clients, make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah. And now more than ever, you just got to put the human touch in there. Be creative. There's tons of ways to interact. Send them, a little plant, a little flower. A box of candy, something, but you got to separate yourself and give them a reason to stay with you. There's a lot of choices out there every day. People can choose, whatever insurance they want, whatever car they buy. To me, retention is the key to people in 2021. There's just your prospecting is going to be limited, or it's going to be more difficult.
People will quit a business or quit a contract, but they won't as readily quit a relationship. Once you build that relationship, that is so important.
You're absolutely right. They'll stay. They'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And there's a lot of companies that will lose customers and they don't really know why, because they just haven't had the human touch. They haven't had the interaction. We talked about planning and how critical it is. I think 2021 is going to be the poster child for business plans.
Oh boy, I couldn't agree more.
The one thing the caveat I would say is, I'm going to be pushing, let's do these in 90-day increments. Let's focus on 90 days at a time because of this.
Interesting thought. So even like the financials and operations, sales plans, 90 days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for the fact that we don't know if business is going to open up
It's true.
In
We
the
don't.
spring, we don't know, what oil and gas prices are going to do. There's still a lot of unknowns. Everybody thinks when the calendar changes, it's going to be back to normal, and it's not. We know better.
Right. And in 2020 was, who could have predicted the pandemic and that oil would, the price of oil would go to negative?
Right.
And I didn't even think that was possible.
No, I didn't either. A 30-year veteran of oil and gas I'd never seen in my life. I've seen some.
First time in history.
Yeah. I've seen some massive swings, but I'd never seen anything like that.
Unbelievable. So 90-day increments, okay.
That's just my thinking is we're going to let's have some successes to build on. Mm-hmm. And if that 90-day goes good, then we'll just keep adding on to it. Yeah. And we'll keep our losses, to minimum. It won't be as, if you have a failure, it won't seem as detrimental because we're looking at it in small windows.
Right. And we are working in uncertainty, right? We don't know what's going to happen in 2021, just like we don't in any year. But with what's happening with the pandemic, when are things going to open up? Or are we going to go into lockdown? And what does that lockdown mean? If you go to California, it means one thing. If you go to New York, it means another. If you do business in other states, that could be it would impact your business here in Texas greatly. So, yeah, the 90-day increments, it's interesting and wise counsel.
And then, another thing to consider is that a lot of people, your vendors may be going out of business. So a lot of people that you rely on for support may be struggling and going away too. So, there's a whole lot of things to consider. I just think 90-day blocks will help us build a plan for success, get the success, the positivity flowing, I guess is the nice way of saying it. A couple other things is your message now is more important than ever. Mm-hmm. Your unique value proposition. Are you just a product in a long line of products? Mm-hmm. Are you solving problems? What's your superpower?
Yeah. So for our listeners, Robert, let's talk about the unique value proposition a little bit, because that might be sort of a new term to some. So define in your terms the unique value proposition.
It's your why you're in business. What your goal is in business. Why are you doing this? You could say, well, Robert, what do you do? I could say I'm a sales and business coach. Okay. There's 1,000 of them. Okay. Or you could say, Robert, what do you do? I help small businesses identify gaps and supply tools to grow and prosper.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So people will know why they want to go to Robert Osborne versus any other business coach, because you're telling them what is unique about you, what the value is, and why, without any uncertainty, they should work with you.
Correct. And it also would lend a question, well, how do you do that?
Okay.
That's the point of a value proposition, is to give them enough information to say, man, I want to talk.
I want to learn more. How do I learn more?
Yeah. But if I say I'm a business coach, okay. Will they ask another question? They might, but they might not. But if I say I help you grow and prosper, how do you do that? Tell me more about it. So it's designed to tell people what you do, but then help them ask questions, or hopefully ask questions to learn more about it.
Perfect.
So again, your message now means more than ever. Mm-hmm. And lastly, I just think right now, if you're a small business owner, an entrepreneur, you need to focus on, there's generally 4 Ps, but I have 5 Ps. Your people. The people. Yep. People are your clients, the people that work for you, the people that are prospects, the people that do your support system. You need to engage in these people. Mm-hmm. Those people make you or break you. So focus on the people.
And in some regard, all equally, or some more attention than other, like clients more than employees, or equal?
I think you've got to spend equal time with all of it. It's situational, I would say. But the people and your clients, for sure. The people that work for you and your clients are one and one A and one B for sure.
Yeah, and they have to feel valued, right? Sure. Once people don't feel like they are of importance, then they're not gonna engage. They're not gonna continue on. Whether that's an employee or a client, they have to feel like they're important and they're valued to you.
And then happy people create, good, better products, provide better service. So your employees, shouldn't be taken for granted. They should be part of the journey along with you.
Absolutely.
I've seen a lot of things where people leave companies and salary is not that high on the list. It's they didn't feel needed, didn't feel wanted. There's so much more of the personal touch in regards to why people leave. So the second P is product. Is your product aligned with the market? Is it outdated? Is it relevant? Look at your product and or service. Service falls in. How does your product compete in the marketplace? Position. What does position mean? Position in the product. Is your product aligned with the demographic? Is it geographically aligned? I'm building a product in Houston, Texas that all my customers are in China. Does that make sense?
Right.
Am I promoting it to the right demographic?
You have a great product, but you're promoting it to the exact wrong demographic.
Right.
So
be sure
it's not going to work.
So be sure you look at your position. Plans. We talked plans. Do you have plans in place? And then lastly, the fifth P I added right now is positivity. I think now more than ever, we just need to maintain a positive. You've heard it for month after month after month, but I'm a big believer that people want to do business with positive people.
Oh my goodness!
People want to work with positive people, and vendors want to supply goods and services to positive people. So that it makes sense that should be part of your.
Yeah, Robert, my wife is an elementary school teacher, and it makes me think back to one of the books that she uses in her class, and I can't remember the exact title of the book, but the concept is be a bucket filler, not a bucket dipper. Right. So we all want to be bucket fillers, and we want to work with people that are going to be bucket fillers. Positive attitude is so important.
And so I've added the fifth P to that just for that. I worked in oil and gas, and when things are not good, the people are really in a foul mood, and it's just hard to do business. They don't want to see you, or they don't want to talk to you, and it just the whole vibe is not good. And I just think that's something I've learned being in oil and gas, that there's no reason that it has to affect your attitude. We're all on pins and needles wondering if we're going to have a job, but let's make the best of it.
And being in oil and gas for so many years, you've seen the ebb and flow. There's the few other industries that see such, swings in prosperity to lack thereof.
Yeah, it's the old feast or famine.
It really is. It really is. So, we have talked about so many good pieces of advice and recommendations. What would be, if you were to pick out, it's hard to say only two, but let's say just two nuggets that the listeners should walk away with, what would be those two?
I can't take credit for this. I saw it on, in an article I read. I would love to give the person the credit, but I just can't recall their name. But it kind of resonated with me. So one of them is be a painkiller, not a vitamin.
Okay.
So the genesis is solve problems, help with people's pain that keeps them up at night. Vitamins right now, are supplemental to what's good, and you need them. But right now we need to be painkillers.
Well, that is well said. Be a painkiller. I like that. So we really need to be out there doing what we can to help others, add value, and to make that pain go away. Because right now, so many people are hurting.
Correct.
And hopefully 2021 will be much better than this year. I don't know how it couldn't be. And the word pivot will be permanently erased from our vocabulare.
I hope so. And then the last nugget, this is something, I said, I guess this is my quote. I've used it for years. Everyone has two choices in business and life. You can either make excuses or make it happen.
Perfect.
And you can back that truck up and unload a whole bunch of excuses every day. It's cold outside, it's COVID, the guy wasn't in, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you've got to overcome the obstacle, create a workaround. You've got the opportunity to make it happen. It all rests on you.
You got to make it happen. So, any excuse will not end in a positive outcome, right?
And you you know as well as I do, the excuses will just pile up and they'll fester, and before long, there's so many you can't overcome them.
Yeah, and it serves no purpose. Yeah.
So those would be the nuggets I would want to be remembered by.
Perfect. What a great conversation. Now, how do people learn about you, Robert?
I'm on all social media platforms, LinkedIn. I have a website.
And what is the website?
thegrowthcoachspringtexas.com.
thegrowthcoachspringtexas.com. Okay. And do they need to do a search for Robert Osborne or just the Growth Coach?
The Growth Coach.
Okay.
That's Spring, Texas.
Very good.
And I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook.
Under Robert Osborne and the Growth Coach. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for spending time today. I think this was a great conversation. I think any listener would be hard-pressed not to walk away with far more than a couple of nuggets of useful information. So you provide us with lots to think about. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you, Jeff. You do great work with your podcast. I was glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Enjoy it. So another great episode today. Such important and valuable information. Robert Osborne, thank you. I hope you, the listener, got many nuggets of information, useful information out of today's podcast. I'm sure that you did. But I want to know what it was. What was that one thing or two things that you walked away with that really resonated with you? I'd love it if you could share with me. Just reach out. My email address is jeff@understandablesolutions.com. And let me know what that information was, what one takeaway that you're going to implement right away. And before we close out today, I'm going to ask you to do three things. First, be thankful. These are tough times, but we have so much to be thankful for. Your friends, your family, acquaintances, colleagues, your job, your home. There's always something that we can be thankful for. And number two, reach out to somebody that you haven't talked with in a while. Whether that's an old friend or reach out to somebody that you've yet to connect with and you've always wanted to. And number three, we have to plan, as Mr. Osborne told us today, we have to plan for an awesome 2021. It's going to be a great year, but it's not going to happen just by happenstance. It's going to happen because we plan for it. As always, I'm grateful that you listened. I hope today was a great day for you, and I hope tomorrow is even better. Peace, everyone.
You've been listening to the Forensic Financialist, where we simplify business and leadership challenges and choose the road that leads to wisdom and excellence. To learn more about Jeff, visit his website at understandablesolutions.com or email Jeff at jeff@understandablesolutions.com. Mentioning this podcast will get you a complimentary discovery session with Jeff. Until next time.